You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start this show off with an apology. When I was previewing the Heat Pacers game yesterday, I mentioned Domantas Sabonis as being a guy who could step up for the Pacers if Oladipo was out. Oladipo did play, but that's not what I'm apologizing for. Domantas Sabonis hasn't played in the bubble. He has plantar fasciitis. And I mentioned him. When I found that out, that I mentioned him, I was so upset with myself. I mean, I'll tell you exactly what was happening. I was looking at Pacers stats and was looking at their big scorers. And without even thinking, I said Sabonis. I knew that Sabonis was out. I really said it without realizing it. I am sorry. I promise to be more careful. No one's more upset about it than me. I don't want you to think that I don't do my homework for this show. I really do. I just said it without thinking. It was an honest mistake. Again, I'm really, really sorry. I know you expect better from me. I expect better from me. No one holds me to a higher standard than me. I am a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist to a fault. Again, I am sorry. But now to the actual Heat Pacers game. And Duncan Robinson had the best game I've ever seen him have. We all know who Robinson is. He's a Joe Harris, Steve Novak, Anthony Morrow type. Jason Capono, Steve Kerr, Fred Hoiberg, whoever you want to say. Just a three-point shooter. And Robinson hit 7 of them yesterday, out of 8 tries. Those 7 threes that he hit are tied for being the most that any Heat player has hit in a single playoff game. They've gotten Goran Dragic cooking at the right time. He's gone from not starting to starting and playing great. Jimmy Butler has been playing great. Tyler Hero has been playing great. The Heat are up 2-0 in this series, despite not playing one of their better players in Kendrick Nunn. He's only played once in the past 2 weeks. And that was on August 14th, a week ago today, when the Pacers blew out the Heat by 17 points. Nunn isn't hurt or anything, he just isn't playing. That's really surprising to me. I thought for sure that Spoelstra was going to get him more involved in the offense. But, hey, if the Heat are winning without him, don't rock the boat. I mean, everyone played well for the Heat. Jay Crowder, Bam Adebayo, Andre Iguodala, Kelly Olynyk. Derek Jones is probably the only exception to that. I wasn't impressed with him. But when you go with a 9-man rotation and 8 of them are playing really, really well, you have a great chance of winning. What killed the Pacers in this game was their bench. All their starters played well. Every single starter for the Pacers had at least a dozen points. Would you like TJ Warren and Victor Oladipo to be a little bit better from three? Yeah, I guess, but that's not the seminal reason why they lost. The seminal reason that they lost is because their bench was nothing short of putrid. Justin Holiday, in 29 minutes, only had 6 points. Jakar Sampson had 8 points. Dougie McBuckets and TJ McConnell each had 2 points. Let me tell you, an injured Sabonis would do better than those guys. The Pacers need to do something quickly. TJ Warren being Bubble Jesus is over. Alright, that was a nice story when it was happening, but it's dead. They have to get depth scoring. They have to get bench scoring. The crux of what I was saying yesterday was true. I just said it wrong. Moving on now to Thunder Rockets. And when I was previewing this game yesterday, I didn't talk about someone that a lot of people were making a big deal out of. And that was Luguentz Dort. Fantastic name, by the way. I wasn't talking about him because people were hyping him up like he was gonna shut down James Harden and Harden was gonna have a tough time scoring against him. And truthfully, I didn't see a lot of him throughout the course of the regular season. I knew he was good defensively, but the stuff about him shutting down James Harden, that was ridiculous to me. But I gotta say, Dort played really, really well. He was the second most impressive player on the court to me. The most impressive was Shea. I give Shea credit for coming back from a dismal game one. I called him out. I said he needed to step up, and he did. He was the high man in this game with 31 points. Dort was all over the place defensively. He was making a ton of plays. I really like watching him play now. I'm gonna search him on YouTube to see if I can watch him play some more. But despite those two things, the Thunder still lost by 13 points. 111-98. Here's something funny about yesterday's games. 3 of the 4 victors scored 111 points. And the one victor who didn't scored 109. Only 2 points off. That is bizarre to me. I don't know when the last time that happened was. That 3 victors of NBA games scored the exact same amount of points on the same day. That is bizarre. Even though the Rockets won, I did think the Thunder played well. James Harden really did not have a good game. Only 2 for 11 from beyond the arc. Eric Gordon was abysmal, 0 for 10 from beyond the arc. But despite that, the Rockets still found a way to win. See, the thing with starting a guy like Dort, all defense, no offense, is you need the 4 other guys on the court to have great offensive games. You can have a defensive stopper, you just need the 4 other guys to click. And Shea was great. Gallinari was really good. Chris Paul was okay. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. 6 for 15 from the field, 2 for 7 from beyond the arc, and 14 points. I can live with that. Dennis Schroeder off the bench, 13, 5, and 5. That's a little disappointing, but I can live with it. What I can't live with is the Thunder not taking advantage of their biggest strength in this series. They have Steven Adams. Really good traditional center, doesn't stretch the floor, bullies you in the low post. He should be destroying guys like P.J. Tucker and Robert Covington. Instead, Adams only got the ball 4 times. And to make matters worse, he hit all those shots. Why were the Thunder not giving him the ball more? That was a bad job of coaching by Billy Donovan. The Rockets played a really good team game, even though their 2 best players had off games from beyond the arc, which is where the Rockets live and die from. P.J. Tucker stepped up. Daniel House stepped up, nearly had a double-double. Jeff Green stepped up, 15 and 7. If Green can be this consistent throughout the playoffs, the Rockets are going to be a tough team to get out. Even a guy like Austin Rivers played well. The fact that the Rockets were able to win this game without Harden and Gordon shooting the ball well, and with Russell Westbrook being out, that's got to give them a ton of confidence. This was a really, really good win for the Rockets. The Thunder played well, but the Rockets are just the better team. Moving on now to Magic Bucks. And you had a sense that the Bucks would play with a fire under their ass. You had a feeling they would play with anger, and you could tell that they were ticked off. Giannis was a beast. Brook Lopez was a beast. Eric Bledsoe was a beast. Pat Connaughton, coming off the bench to have a double-double in points and rebounds, is really impressive. Pat Connaughton is not the kind of guy who gets a lot of rebounds. He only had 4.2 per game this whole season. In fact, his high before this in a game was 8. Not too far off, but still not enough to get a double-double. Really impressive game by Connaughton. Dante DiVincenzo shot the ball well. The Bucks were ticked off. The Magic weren't ready for it. That's what happened here. I'm not going to gloss over the Magic, though. Nikola Vujovic played great. 32 points and 10 rebounds. I really, really like Vujovic. I think he's a very underrated player. James Ennis had a good game. The guards for the Magic, Fultz, Fournier, Augustine, and Terrence Ross all had good games. But at the end of the day, the Bucks just showed why they're better. Despite Chris Middleton no-showing, Middleton was 1 for 8 from the field. 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. In 31 minutes, he only had 2 points. Middleton can afford to no-show against the Magic, but if he no-shows against the Heat or the Pacers, that doesn't bode well for the Bucks. I don't know if they can come back from that. Moving on now to Trailblazers, Lakers, and talk about a team being ticked off. The Lakers were ticked off. Anthony Davis went off. 31 points and 11 rebounds. Even with LeBron playing like garbage, only scoring 10 points, the Lakers still destroyed the Trailblazers. The Lakers did shoot the ball better, even though Danny Green couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope stepped up. J.R. Smith was pretty good. Markieff Morris I was disappointed in. And Alex Caruso I was disappointed in. But when Anthony Davis is that dominant, watch out. The big story here for the Trailblazers is the fact that after playing 30 minutes, Damian Lillard had to leave with a dislocated finger. His status for Game 3 is up in the air. Lillard does think he's going to play, so that does mean something, but obviously we don't know yet. Him and McCollum were the only two Trailblazers that played well. Well, I shouldn't say that. Anthony Simons, off the bench, played well. 11 points in 15 minutes. I'll take that. But everyone else was dreadful. Yusuf Nurkic was being manhandled by Anthony Davis. So was Hassan Whiteside. Wenyen Gabriel is a nobody. He fouled out. Carmelo Anthony was playing well defensively. I'll give him credit. But if you play 27 minutes and you're Carmelo Anthony, you have to score more than 2 points. It's good that LeBron had a tough time against you. I give Melo credit for that. But you've got to do more. You have to contribute offensively. You're Carmelo Anthony, after all. You've scored over 20,000 points in your career. You're a future Hall of Famer because of your ability to score. You have to score more than just 2 points. I like that you're locking up the king. Really impressive. But you gotta score also. When Yusuf Nurkic can't get going, the Blazers need Melo to be their third scorer. If they only have 2 scorers, they don't have a chance. Moving on now to today's games, and I will start with Raptors-Nets. For the Raptors, take advantage of this depleted Nets team. They're without their best three-point shooter. If you can hit a bunch of threes, which I know you can, I've seen it, the Nets don't have anyone who can match it. If Fred VanVleet really gets cooking, well, not if, when Fred VanVleet really gets cooking, that's it. Same thing with a guy like OG Anunoby. Same thing with a guy like Norman Powell. If I'm the Raptors, I would look to blow the Nets out today. I think they're going to put up a bunch of points. I really, really do. As for the Nets, I'm going to tell you exactly what they need to do. Okay? It's really simple. They need to get a DeLorean, go back in time, and listen to Jacob from the past when he said that the Nets should withdraw from the NBA restart. Yes, they played well in the seeding games. I give them credit, but they have no chance anymore against the Raptors. I thought they could take a couple games. I thought they could make this series interesting. But now, when all you have left is Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, and Garrett Temple, you're done. The starting 5 isn't bad for the Nets. It's really not. It's just when you get to their bench and you see guys like Tyler Johnson, Chris Chiozza, Jeremiah Martin, and Dante Hall. What am I supposed to do with that? That's not even a quadruple A bench. That's a G League bench. The Nets are done. They gave me a nice ride in the seeding games. On the bright side, we'll be a little bit closer to the end of the season, so that way the Nets can bring in their new head coach. It's not going to be Jacques Vaughn. And we'll be a little bit closer to seeing Durant and Kyrie on the Nets together. Moving on now to Nuggets Jazz. And the Nuggets need to find a way to contain Donovan Mitchell. And I'm looking at a guy like Torrey Craig. A guy who did not play well in Game 2. But usually, he's a solid defender. While I'm not saying he's going to shut down Donovan Mitchell, he'll limit Mitchell. I don't think that Mitchell can go off with Craig on him. He'll still get his, but I don't think he'll drop 30. I don't think he'll hit 6 threes. If the Nuggets can force the ball out of Mitchell's hands, that bodes really well for their chances in this game. As for the Jazz, they need someone else to step up offensively. We all know that Mitchell is going to get his. We all know that Gobert is going to get his. We all know that Joe Ingles is going to get his. And we all know that Jordan Clarkson is going to get his. But the Jazz need someone else to step up. Fortunately for them, Mike Conley is probably gonna play in this game. They need Conley to immediately make his presence known. This is a guy who in the regular season averaged 14.5 points a game, 3.2 rebounds per game, and 4.5 assists per game. Really, really good player. If the Jazz can get him cooking, they have a really good chance in this game. Moving on now to Celtics Sixers. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this game. I think this series is really over. Just like the Nets series. The Celtics have drastically outplayed the Sixers. While the Sixers are not playing well, the Celtics are cooking. Even without Gordon Hayward. Jason Tatum looks amazing, Jaylen Brown looks amazing, and Kemba Walker looks great. Would I like them to get some more scoring from somewhere? In a perfect world, yes. But they really don't need it against the Sixers. The Sixers are done. You can see it. They look defeated. Not even Ben Simmons could save them at this point. And it's funny. I follow Billy Reinhart on Twitter. He's a really smart guy. Does a lot of stuff for NetsDaily.com. Big Yankees fan, really smart guy. He proposed a trade that would land Joel Embiid in Brooklyn. I don't remember everything that was in the trade. It's on his Twitter. The one thing I'll say is, while I'm not going to hold my breath for that, I definitely think that the Nets need a third star, whether it's Embiid, Bradley Beal, or Jrue Holiday. And when you first hear it, you may think to yourself, there's no way the Sixers would trade Embiid. I don't know how true that is. While I like Elton Brand, I like his aggressiveness, he has not done a good job constructing this roster. There are too many non-shooters. The NBA is transitioning to a game that is perimeter-centric. You need shooters. And when Ben Simmons is your point guard, you need shooters at every other position. Tobias Harris is a good shooter, but guys like Embiid, Al Horford, and Josh Richardson aren't. It may benefit the Sixers to drastically retool their roster, get in as many shooters as they can, let Ben Simmons play like Giannis plays for the Bucks, design a lot of similar plays in that same vein, and you really got something there. That can work. I'll tell you who I would target when Brett Brown gets fired. Darvin Ham. He's the lead assistant coach for the Bucks. He knows that system. He can design plays very similarly to how Mike Budenholzer designs plays for Giannis. Ham has been an assistant coach in this league since 2011. Before that, he was a player in this league. Granted, he wasn't that great. He only averaged 2.7 points per game, 2.3 rebounds per game, and half an assist per game. But he lasted 8 seasons in the league. He was doing something right. Wasn't bad defensively. I think that could work. I know it would be a surprise hire. Not a very sexy name, but sometimes you don't need the sexy name. You just need the right name. Kenny Atkinson was not a sexy name when the Nets hired him. Very quickly, he established himself as one of the better coaches in the NBA. I think that could work for the Sixers. I really, really do. The last game to talk about is Clippers-Mavericks. And for the Clippers, I want them to get Paul George really cooking. George was good in Game 1. Not trying to take anything away from him there. Had 27 points. But Game 2, he was non-existent. 4 for 17 from the field. 2 for 10 from beyond the arc. That doesn't work for me. Paul George needs to be the second best player on the Clippers if they're going to have success against this Mavericks team. The way that Luka's playing, the way that Porzingis is playing, the way that Hardaway is playing, the Clippers need everyone playing at their best. This is a feisty Mavericks team. Paul George needs to put Game 2 behind him and be the Paul George of Game 1. As for the Mavericks, I really wouldn't change too much. Realize, if Porzingis didn't get ejected in Game 1, the Mavericks probably win that game. And they won Game 2. The Mavericks are playing great right now. Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the NBA. Always liked him. That's going to do it for basketball for today. No, I'm not going to talk about the draft lottery. where's the story there? You know, the only thing that's really notable to me is that the Knicks dropped 2 spots. I mean, I love that. Because, you know, I'm a Knicks hater. I'll be the first person to tell you that. Congrats to the Timberwolves. It's going to be interesting to see what direction they decide to go in. This is not an easy draft to project. There's no real top guy. I've heard some people say that Anthony Edwards is the top player in this draft. I've heard other people say that LaMelo is the top player in this draft. I've heard the same thing said about James Wiseman, Denny Avdija. I mean, that's the one positive for the Knicks. If you're going to drop in any draft, have it be this one, where the difference between 6 and 8 really isn't that vast. Would you have liked number 1? Of course. But you were supposed to get 6. You got 8. I wouldn't complain too much. I mean, the one thing I'll say about this draft is I've had a really tough time evaluating guys. Do I have some scouting reports? Yes. But I'm a big believer in what you do in March Madness matters. I like watching how players play under the bright lights. That really means a lot to me. I don't have that luxury this year, and I think we're going to have a very high bust rate in this draft. I really, really do. Same thing for the NFL in 2020 and maybe 2021. Both draft classes, I think you're going to see a lot of guys bust in the NFL. Moving on now to hockey, and the Islanders completed their gentleman's sweep of the Capitals. They shut him out 4-0. They are advancing to the next round. This was about as quintessential of an Islanders game as you're ever going to see. Not a lot of offense. Don't be confused by the 4 goals. 2 of them were empty netters. But just a great defense. They didn't let the Capitals get anything going. The biggest moment of that game to me was when the Capitals pulled Holtby. They were moving the puck around the right side of the ice. The Islanders weren't giving them any shooting lanes. Eventually, they get this shot from not quite the point, like just off the hash marks of the face-off circle. It was a terrible shot. It didn't even get through to Varlamov. It got blocked. And Nick Leddy flipped it down the length of the ice for an empty net goal that iced the game for the Islanders. They played great. I don't care that they only had 17 shots. They only gave up 21. This is what the Islanders do, okay? They don't get a lot of shots. But when they get quality scoring opportunities, usually they end up converting. They even converted on the power play. Low shot on the net, forced some chaos. Nelson got the puck, passed it to Beauvillier, who had a wide open net to shoot at. And then Beauvillier, again, the beautiful pass by Bailey. This was a great game for the Islanders. They played great. They out-hit the Capitals. I was kind of surprised that the Capitals didn't try to goad them into anything, but I know why they didn't. They were afraid that Ross Johnston was going to take their heads off. Johnston played because Clutterbuck was scratched. So Johnston goes on the fourth line. Derek Brassard was also scratched. So Michael DeCall filled in on the third line. Johnston didn't do much, but he didn't need to. This is why I wanted him in after Game 1. With him being available to Trotz, the Capitals can't do anything. Even a guy like Tom Wilson. You know, the hit on Beauvillier after he scored the second goal, as much as I'd love to say that was a dirty hit and we should ban Tom Wilson from the NHL, it really wasn't. That was Wilson going with a full head of steam towards Beauvillier. He's trying to prevent the goal, and he really couldn't stop himself. That really wasn't a dirty hit. It just wasn't. But this was a typical Islanders game, a prototypical Islanders game for when Barry Trotz is coaching them. They're set up really well for the next round. If the Flyers win, then they're going to face the Islanders. If the Canadiens win, then the Bruins are going to face the Islanders. I think they can beat the Bruins. I'm not sold on Yaroslav Halak. I'm really not. I think the Islanders can get to him. And the Flyers, look, that's going to be really tough. I'm probably going to pick the Flyers, but I'm not setting anything in stone right now. That's going to be a really even series, I think. I know that Carter Hart is better than Semyon Varlamov, but the way that Varlamov's playing, it would give me pause to just out and out pick the Flyers. Moving on now to Stars Flames. And this is a perfect example as to why I was really uncomfortable previewing this game. I had no idea how this game was going to go, and it played out that way. The Flames storm out to a 3-0 lead in the first period. They're up 3-1 at the end of one, and I'm sure everyone in Calgary was thinking, okay, great, they're going to force a Game 7. Let's go. We got this. But after that, the Flames played some of the worst hockey you will ever see in your life. They ended up allowing 7 unanswered goals. Yeah, they lost this game 7-3. They were up 3-0. Think about that. I give Jeff Ward credit. He did pull Cam Talbot for David Rittich, which I said he should do. Worst comes to worse, there's no way that Rittich can be as bad as Talbot, right? No! Rittich was actually worse. Rittich was so bad that after he gave up his third goal, they put Talbot back in. You never see that. And Denis Gurianov. Denis freaking Gurianov. A 20-goal scorer, but there's no way you knew that. He's probably the most unassuming 20-goal scorer in NHL history. Scores 4 goals in this game. None of them were empty netters. He had a hat trick in just the second period. That was all he needed. He didn't need a power play goal. He didn't need an empty netter. Think about this stat for a minute. The shots were 41-24. Who do you think had the 41 shots? Did you guess the Stars? Huh? Good job. You're wrong. It's the Flames. The Flames had 41 shots. And after converting on 3 of their first, 7 shots, Anton Khudobin stoned them. The Flames were dreadful in this series. The Stars weren't much better. This was a tough series to get into for me. So wishy-washy, so up in the air. You know, I like consistency. I like having a basic idea of what I think is going to happen. I don't like going into a game blind without knowing anything. I'm going to give you a weird example. Game 6 of last year's ALCS, when both the Yankees and Astros started openers. I said to my dad, I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. He looked at me like I was nuts. I said to him, usually when I'm watching a sporting event, especially when it's the Yankees, I have a basic idea of how I think the game is going to go. I have no idea what's going to happen with 2 openers starting. That's what this series turned into for me. I had no idea what was going to happen next. The one thing I'll say is, I hope you bet on the Stars after they allowed the 3rd goal. I'm sure you made a lot of money. The Stars did not impress me in this series at all. They're going to face the Avalanche in the next round, a team that I have said is going to represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't think the Avalanche are going to have any trouble with the Stars. Alright, now it's time to preview tonight's 2 games. I'll start with Flyers Canadiens. And I said this yesterday, I think this game is going to be a bloodbath. I think there's going to be a lot of bad blood. Brendan Gallagher is out with a broken jaw that he suffered from a Matt Niskanen cross-check. Yeah, I think the Canadiens are going to be out for blood, and the Flyers are not going to back down. This is going to be a really physical game. I do think it's going to be low scoring. I understand that Game 5 wasn't, but I don't think that's going to happen in back-to-back games. The over-under that I'm looking at right now is 5. That means that they're expecting a 3-2 game or a 4-1 game or a 5-0 game. I'll take the under on that. The one thing I'll say about this type of game is either team can come out on top. When you have a situation like this, where both teams are going to be out for blood, it's really 50-50. It's really take your pick and hope for the best. I mean, I remember the Islanders-Penguins brawl. The Islanders destroyed the Penguins. And then when they got out to a big lead, they wanted blood. In fact, even before they got out to their big lead, they wanted blood. No one saw that final score coming. The final score was, I think, like 9-3 or something like that. No one saw that coming. I'm not saying we're going to have that many penalty minutes, but I think this is going to be a really, really physical game. Moving on now to Blues Canucks. And for the Blues, they need to play with a level head. I know that they're a little nervous right now. They had to go with Jake Allen because Jordan Binnington was dreadful. Allen looked great in games 3 and 4. And in game 5, he really didn't. He allowed 4 goals. Only made 26 saves. There's a sense of panic there. I can sense it. Don't panic. Look at the scoreboard. Yes, you're down 3-2, but you're tied at 0 right now in this game. Just take it one game at a time. That's all you need to do. Play your style of physical hockey. And don't let Tyler Mott kill you. Look, I like Tyler Mott. Really physical player. Plays the game the right way. But if you're going to allow 2 goals to a Canuck, don't let it be Tyler Mott. Let it be JT Miller or Elias Pettersson or Bo Horvat. Let it be someone who's known for scoring, not someone who's known for physical play. As for the Canucks, just tighten up offensively. And what I mean by that is, the 2 Tyler Mott goals, I'm not trying to take anything away from him, I give him credit, were really the results of defensive breakdowns by the Blues. The Canucks really couldn't get their offense going in this game that well. Like the set plays that they were trying to run, the cycles, the things like that, it really didn't work that well. Tighten that game plan up. I don't think you're going to get 2 breakaways like that again. I think the Blues are going to clamp down on that. Tighten up your game offensively. I hope you have a good weekend. Hope you watch a lot of playoffs. I will not watch baseball because the Yankees are being punished because the Mets had a player and a coach get the coronavirus. So the Yankees can't play. They're in a state of limbo right now. This season is a joke. Like I said, I'm having a tough time getting into it. There will be a New York Yankees show on Monday, and on the regular episode of the Jacob Valk Show, I'm going to break down the 8 NBA Playoff Series and preview the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. I don't think it's going to start before Monday. I know it's technically possible for all the first round matchups to be decided tonight, actually. If the Flyers and Canucks win, that's it. So I guess it's technically possible that they could start the second round on Sunday, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see the NHL doing that. I could be wrong. I really hope I'm not. It's going to mess up the structure of this show, but I know that's the last thing on the NHL's mind right now. Regardless, until Monday, I am Jacob Valk saying that they sent me a whole shipment of baseball bats and not one set of directions.